It is time to subscribe to earn drops. I can't even subscribe, right? Okay. Dismiss. Yeah, so I think today, I think I actually have notes. Where are the notes? Stream. Check up on roadmap, then finish video prep, then affective neuroscience. All right, let's do it. All right, so how late are we actually? Let's figure this one out. We have our calendar right here. This is a long time ago, right? We figured out that we were going to be doing Silk Song that entire week, pretty much. And that was through the 6th, I guess. I mean, we kept playing Silk Song, obviously, but we did start Maps to Meeting Mondays. We probably did that. Start adding references. We did start adding references, so we're online with that. Continue outlining part 2. Yep. Outline content deployment workflow. So this is how is content being scheduled and posted on each platform? So this is more of a process where I think I'm going to just kind of do it and then see what works rather than plan it out prior. So far I've just been posting to YouTube proper, I'll just say. I haven't posted any shorts yet. We're going to be trying to come up with short form content soon. So we'll figure that one out. Automated content posting infrastructure. What is the plan for reacting to content posts? Yeah, so let's just kind of keep that at. Maybe we hold on to this and put it in like in the backlog. We didn't prepare the Substack with weekly updates, so that we can put in the backlog as well. And this, we gotta separate these because these are backlog. Okay. Week of September 14th through September 20th. All right. 2 weeks ago. Comprehensive content research. What to make post next. Okay, so we haven't done this yet. Yeah, I have to do this. That was the only thing I guess I had slated for that. We'll just push. I mean, we have been doing a lot. It's just that I tend to overestimate. Research comprehensive marketing plan for October. What should we do to push the channel? Okay, so maybe this is something that we can hold on to as well, that we should do sooner rather than later, given that it is October. Granted, we might want to push this back. Like, I think there's just more to do before we start doing that stuff. It's like lower priority. I think it is good that we're getting videos out there. It's making it easier for people to come here and see what we have going on. Schedule automation project tasks. Yeah, this is like backlog. I don't think we even need to do this right now. So that was the week of that. Oh, we don't have anything, or was that? Okay. Then September, ideas for stream, read more of the Philosopher Journal. We might be done with the Philosopher Journal because we kind of looked through it finally, and I think I just lost the subscription actually. So unless punishment, violence, Marx and philosophy, yeah, I think we would only want to go backwards, maybe thinking otherwise. But I don't know. I wasn't. There were some really great articles in the one that we read, where philosophy is going, or where is philosophy going. But I wasn't like blown away, so maybe we chill out with this stuff. Maybe we say goodbye. because we still have to, okay, so we are doing this. We're watching maps and meaning on stream. And this is already represented by another point. Read through less wrong, right? We could still keep going through less wrong, even though that wasn't the best either, but we'll do it. We do have to finish meditation for music makers. We should be keeping up with that too. I do want to, especially as we get closer to part 2, the creativity aspect of part 2. Read through the brain that changes itself, highlights. We still have to do this. So these are all perhaps I could put that somewhere else, maybe in the backlog. Maybe we have a separate section called Ideas for Stream. What is this heading to? Ideas for Stream activities. And we can go like that. We can go like that. September is gone. October to December. Yikes. Let's separate that. Networking, research other similar communities. We're kind of starting to do that, but we're not really getting too far, just because we've only given Fridays to our looking out there. But I will have to do more comprehensive research of relevant content creators in the space. It's looking pretty tough when you consider the YouTube landscape. Like when you're searching, like we're gonna have to reach out to big hitters if we can't find anyone else. Reach out to content creators about collaborative discussions. Okay, so this is gonna be like November or December. November and December. Improve stream quality, attempt to animate our branding, scene screens. Oh, all of this stuff might be just something that we want to put in the backlog. I don't know if it's actually really important right now. As important as this stuff. So, what do I actually see as our October planning? We want to certainly continue what we're working on. So, I think the goal would be to complete part 1 referencing effort, which we might be able to do. Then there's going to be finish up reading The Strange Order of Things. Start reading, what was it? It was like the Handbook of Embodied Cognition. Yeah, the rootledge. Start reading. Yo, Dharmadam, what's good? We're doing mighty fine. We've got a bunch of productivity things that we got to do tonight, and then we'll be playing some Hades in no time. So I got to start reading the Rootledge Handbook of Embodied Cognition. What else do we want to get done this month? We want to completely outline the rough. Actually, let's just say complete the rough outline of part 2, which I think we could do. So this would be like organize all notes, and then actually all notes within relevant sections. Okay, and then what, Thursdays? Okay, Tuesday, Thursdays, we were doing productivity stuff. That's okay. So to continue on that. It should be, let's just say this is going to be like research. I'll put this under research, that under research. And then we need content creation, which would be something like, I don't know, continue making stream edits, which, by the way, we have a new one. We've got a edited video. Oh, look at this. My theories. Nice. Yeah, okay. We're getting some exposure. The semantics of existence. Yeah, how do I do it? If I click on this, does this bring me? Yeah, let's do that. Hell yeah. If any chance I can share my theories with you, that would be awesome. I don't know where, but I'll take theories. I don't know if there's too many theories that we like. The whole idea of this video was pointing out that when you're answering a question like where does or did existence come from nothing, that we have to be clear about what we mean by existence. And in this video, it was when I was on stream just iterating through different ways we could think and talk about existence, and I kind of answer the question in each of those ways in a very rough way. Like, it's not that great, but I thought it was nice enough to put on the channel. But we also need to make more of our actual part 1 read through videos. So let's just think about this. We've got some nice, so this weekend I think I'm going to be filming the read through for Experience in the Moment. Then I'm guessing it's going to be 2 weeks before we film the next one, which would be what is it called again? Is it like the changing of experience? The shaping of experience. The shaping of experience. It's going to take a while because I need to make sure that everything within the section is referenced. And I mean, granted, we're kind of breaking that rule because I'm only up to here in terms of referencing. We need to add more. And I'll probably try to work on that this weekend. And then, yeah, we have to have discussions about neuroplasticity. That's going to be the main thing that I think we get talking about during the prep for this video. Development in social context. Yeah, that's going to be big as well. And once we get to conceptualizing our understanding, yeah, when would we want to do that? Should we do that every other week now too? So there's just so much we have to do in between these things. Okay, let's actually put this down. Oh no, if I put a task or an event in here, it's going to show up on our automated image. so we can't do that. But what we can do is just remember to do that, which I probably will. Yeah, and then there's not, like, once we get to the framework of freedom, there's not much to read. There's nothing to reference really within here. This is all stuff that we've done. Same with conceptualizing our understanding. We actually already have, we're going to have to reference schema theory. And then we have our reference that kind of allows us to do all the Hegel stuff. And then maybe there's something here, but I don't know. I think we're kind of chilling till the end. I do want to add more to this section. So I think the big bumps are going to be, or the big humps, I guess, are these two major sections, which just have so much referenceable material. And then the epilogue would actually be kind of crazy. We need to make sure that we are referencing effectively there. Okay, let's get back to this content creation. So we said film read through videos for experience in the moment and the shaping of experience. So that's probably the main content creation. Continue making stream edits, and then maybe start thinking about short form, about scripted short form content. Okay, so that covers Tuesdays and Thursdays. We've covered Wednesday with this. So Monday, we just continue with maps of meaning 2015. That's just kind of a general thing that we'll do on stream. And then Friday is also just generally, that's the fun stuff, but it's also explore the self-help, science, philo, community on various platforms. And so far we've just kind of been blindly searching on YouTube, but we'll have to see what else is going on. We should actually just look on Twitch at some point and then reach out to people, but we shall see. Okay, so what do we need to open up for continuing the work from yesterday? It's going to be... Oh, there's a website. You can do a multi-search for niche terms. That's what I do. Oh, nice. What, first of all, is that how you found this channel? And then also, do you remember what that, otherwise you have to search one by one. Oh, nice. Okay, what was that, website? This is videos. This is going to be experience in the moment. And we need to add stuff here. Oh, sorry. Am I permitted? I could actually just grab this. Okay. And I will bookmark it. Oh, it's specifically a stream filter. So it's for Twitch streams. I see. Nice. Okay, we've got that bookmark here now, right? Yeah. We should do Twitch search. Yeah, so we'll have to come here and just kind of figure out. Oh yeah, max viewers. That's great. Should we do 50? Sort by maybe longest online. And then I'm not sure what we would do for the tags, but we'll have to think of something that makes sense. But that should be a good activity for tomorrow. For now, I just gotta, unfortunately, prepare. Okay, today's focus. Where we are so far, right? I asked for a better version of that. Where we are so far. And then does this come with the... If I did it here, would it come with the separator? It would. Okay, let's insert the horizontal line. And unpacking the section. We also have the live reading. Oh man, this is all white. That's just great. Self-help, philosophy, psychology. Yeah, that's probably the ticket. Okay, then we need unpacking this section, looking back. Is this version any better? Okay, looking back, the pivot's purpose. This section fulfills the pivot we just made. We move from the world out there to the world in here, exploring the mechanics of our own. So we can cut down on this. So in this section, we begin exploring the mechanics of our own, exploring our own our own experience. I'll just say meaningful experience. And then we cover intuitive phenomenology. This is kind of high level though. How it intuitively feels and the science that makes sense of that feeling, of those feelings. That's pretty much it. The analytical flow, the what, our intuitive experience. We started by observing how our own minds confirming that meaning isn't just an idea we have about the world; it's a feeling. So we end this reading with like a good summary of everything that kind of occurs. So it's not going to be that important to unpack this section here. So maybe we point out the idea we can think about meaning as not just an idea we have about the world, it's not just a feeling, it's it arises with emotions, we should just say with feelings. our visceral, emotional, embodied experience. At each moment, ... To understand why we experience, or why experience feels this way, we turn to science. So yeah, the ideas would be, okay, the main ideas. A leading interpretation of our brain-body processes. Is that? It helps us consider how the feeling of certainty doesn't necessarily correspond to ultimate external truths, but embodied affective signals that our brain's predictions are matching reality. So this is actually part of it that we don't really need to say again, because we do say it in that final subsection. So let's not say that. And I should put this as the subject of the sentence rather than the object. Predictive processing is a leading interpretation. So that's like we're not trying to point out that there's like literally code in our brain that's called predictive processing or whatever .exe. It's that this is an interpretation about what our brain's doing, and it's quite justified and also quite powerful in how much it explains about our brain, our body, our experience, and our learning. That's why we hold on to it. The synthesis, finally we connected our intuitive observation to science, showing that, okay, so and we will use it recurrently. Yeah. Looking forward, the big question, by showing what our experience is, that our experience is an act of construction. This, what shapes the models? That's not really the question. Looking forward. We need to consider what causes our experience to change over time. We need to consider what causes us to experience the world in this way, or no, in the way that we do. And how does it affect our experience over time? It's not a good sentence. And how does it affect our experience over time? Looking for, we need to consider what causes us to experience the world in the way that we do. We need to consider how it affects our experience over time. Actually, we could have just done this. And how it affects our experience over time. Okay. So the next video. I could put this here. All right, I think we're chilling now. I think we're kind of done. Could we just instead add a little bit of space up just to this guy? And then maybe have this guy just with a what am I looking for? Horizontal line. Okay, can we get it all on one page? We can. And then can we do this? Where is the guy? There it is. Yep, could we make it like there? Oh, then we lose of course. But I think that's a worthwhile trade, since we are going to have this like really squished up, because we're going to be reading the document on the left side of the screen, and then we'll probably just have this like this. Though we could try to make this larger. This will be 200 actually. Yeah, so it'll be like this. And I will probably be reading from down here as well. So I actually don't remember. Did I read from down here, or was I reading from top left? This would be structures. Oh, I am in the top left. Okay. Does that make sense? Should I be in the top left? Maybe. Then the CC wouldn't be over my head, right? So that's probably the better way of going about it. Which means that I'm going to be up here, and I need to make sure that I know that. That's the only issue. It's like I now need to make sure that this is always center screen, whatever header we're on. So live reading. And then this is kind of nice, because it gives people the real quick summary while we're even reading it. Okay, so I think this is it. I think this is all I need to do. Which brings us to our potentially most boring stage of the night, which is to look at yeah, was that it? To look at affective neuroscience notes. I think this is what we're doing. All right, let's just kind of run through these really quickly just to see what we should really stay on and what's really important here. All right, the preface. The basic premise here is that the brain is a symbolic organ that reflects an evolutionary epistemology encoded in our genes. The mammalian brain not only represents the outside world in symbolic codes based on the properties of its sensory perceptual systems, but also has intrinsic operating systems that govern ingrained psycho-behavioral tendencies for coping with those ever-present challenges that our ancestors confronted in their evolution. So we have to keep in mind that this book was actually written like a little while ago. So there are probably better books that explain the same stuff that also reference this. Our stories and our semantic habits have profound consequences for how we proceed in empirical inquiries. And as I will repeat, perhaps ad nauseum, there is really no other way to obtain biological knowledge about emotional matters except through arduous brain research, usually in other species, guided by meaningful psychological concepts. Thus, this book is written especially for those students who wish to bridge psychological and neurological issues in scientifically sound ways. That's a similar premise to the one I keep saying, that like in order for us to have an effective philosophy, we need to incorporate the science that bridges the gap. I've tried to make this difficult journey into the brain as stimulating as possible without doing injustice to the facts, even though I had to neglect many important lines of evidence to prevent the book from becoming too cumbersome. In any event, I hope that there will be a number of students of philosophy, psychology, and the neurosciences who will find my efforts sufficiently refreshing and provocative that they will eventually set out on their own empirical journeys in search of answers to many scientific questions that remain to be asked. All right, then we have part one. So I actually only read, like, I guess half this book, so we don't have to do the whole thing. But this is also kind of me thinking, should I read the rest of it? An initial takeaway presumption is that specific parts of the brain correspond to specific emotions. That was my writing. Although the various forms of emotional arousal do many things in the brain, one of the most important and most neglected topics in neuroscience is the attempt to understand how emotional feelings are generated. So actually, I think I'm about to read this tonight in the other book that I'm reading. I will accept the likelihood that other animals do have internal feelings we commonly label as emotions, even though the cognitive consequences of those states probably vary widely from species to species. The empirically defensible assumption will allow me to utilize information derived from simpler brains to highlight the fundamental sources of affective experiences in humans. This is not to deny that much of cognitive as well as emotional processing in the brain transpires at the subconscious level, but to assert that basic internally experienced affective states do have an important function in determining how the brain generates behavior, and that other animals probably have internally experienced feelings. The vast differences in cognitive abilities among species should not pose a major difficulty for the present analysis, for the focus here will be mainly on those ancient subcortical operating systems that are, to the best of our knowledge, homologous in all mammals. So I think this is slightly outdated based on what I'm reading more recently. Like, even though you could point to parts in the brain and say, like, this is from this evolutionary time period and this from this. As evolution kept going on, like for humans, these different layers built new connections and systems between each other. So there is still consideration in how each one is facilitating the behavior, the experience, the feelings in humans, given all of these added networks. Such ancient brain functions evolved long before the emergence of the human neocortex with its vast cognitive skills. Hence, cognitive subtleties that can emerge from shared primitive systems interacting with more recently involved brain areas will receive little attention here. An analysis of those issues will require the types of conceptualizations presently being generated by evolutionary psychologists. Why has it taken us so long to recognize the general organizational principles for mind and behavior that are found within the primitive, genetically dictated areas of the brain that all mammals share? It is partly because the actions of those ancient brain systems are very difficult to see clearly within our own behavior patterns, especially through the complex cognitive prisms of the human cortex that generates subtle behavioral strategies and layers of learning and culture that are uniquely human. Behaviorism has dealt credibly with the modification and channeling of behavior patterns as a function of learning, but it has not dealt effectively with the nature of the innate sources of behavioral variation that are susceptible to modification via the reinforcement contingencies of the environment. I would suggest that a missing piece that can bring all these disciplines together is a neurological understanding of the basic emotional operating systems of the mammalian brain and the various conscious and unconscious internal states they generate. This new perspective, which I have chosen to call affective neuroscience, may be of some assistance to the growing movement in philosophy to bring neurological issues to bear on the grand old questions concerning the nature of the human mind. Wow, whose suggestion? Are you asking who suggested I read this book, or whose suggestion is this? I see. This is Jacques Panksepp, or maybe it's just Jacques. I don't know, but this is the book from which these quotes are from, and this book came out a little while ago, 1998. Yeah. So quite some time. So some of this stuff is like slightly outdated, but it's not outdated in the sense that it's like strictly incorrect. It's just that it might be a little reductive of things because we just didn't know as much. This was a Jordan Peterson reference. So that's how I found this. And that's also how I arrived at talking about, or that's how I arrived at the very thought of our experience of meaning as something that is inherently emotional. And so that's kind of the interpretation that this document takes, and it makes sense of how we can be certain about things that later turn out to be incorrect, how our experience of being wrong has such a visceral, anxiety-inducing cascade of experience and feelings. All right, afterthought, a stylistic medium I will use throughout this book. Afterthought is not meant to imply that the material is not important. It is used to give... Okay, so I think I quoted this because I thought maybe it would be useful for our document. It is used to give focused attention to key issues, especially historical or conceptual ones, that do not fit well in the main text. Indeed, the afterthoughts will often highlight the most critical issues. So we actually did, or like my use of, or way of doing this was the references page, where we get to put these it's like references, but also we get to talk about the subject in a little bit of a extended way that wouldn't make sense for the actual document. So let's jump back. Okay, 1, affective neuroscience, history and major concepts. And then this is what I say. It seems to be the case that in order to consider behavior when speculating whether an animal species experiences emotions similarly to humans, one must draw comparisons to specific human affective behavioral responses. It can't just be that the animal reacts to danger or pain, but rather that the behaviors are sufficiently similar to humans. So, for example, freezing when hitting is... So, yeah, like the fact that rats and humans both like freeze in the face of danger... Yo, Onion Helmet, what's good? That gives, obviously, scientists reason to draw parallels between the underlying architecture of each of our brains. It is based largely on the existence of many psychoneural homologies. The fact that the intrinsic nature of basic emotional systems has been remarkably well conserved during the course of mammalian evolution. Although there is a great deal of diversity in the detailed expressions of these systems across species, the conserved features allow us to finally understand some of the fundamental sources of human nature by studying the animal brain. So he's kind of making the case. He's making the case for how we can like arrive at human knowledge based on rat studies. Like it's a similar type of argument here. We must remember that the words we select are not causes for behavior. They only begin to specify the types of brain processes we must fathom in order to comprehend behavior. One reason psychologists become hesitant to use traditional emotional terms was because they could not adequately define most of them. Without brain knowledge, such terms could be defined by behavioral criteria, but the ensuing verbal circles did not really help us predict new behaviors. With the advent of the neuroscience revolution, we can now hone definitions to a finer edge than was ever possible before. So that it's like considering without knowing anything about the brain or what's inside the brain, like what the emotion of fear is or anxiety is, and it would be very difficult. But since we actually know what parts of the brain are activated, which molecules are involved, like now we have a much clearer understanding of these emotions. Without a concurrent neural analysis, emotional concepts cannot be used non-circularly in scientific discourse. We cannot say that animals attack because they are angry and then turn around and say that we know animals are angry because they exhibit attack. We cannot say that humans flee from danger because they are afraid and then say we know that humans are afraid if they exhibit flight. Such circular word juggling does not allow us to make new and powerful predictions about behavior. However, thanks to the neuroscience revolution, we can begin to specify the potential brain mechanisms that are essential substrates for such basic emotions. Who said this? This is this guy. This is Jock in 1998. I'll just keep this up. Makes sense. Is this guy still around? I doubt it, but maybe. No. Oh, I guess that's pretty long ago now. But kind of a legend. I know him. Yeah, I mean, I think you know what? Actually, I remember we talked about it on this channel, and I remember you saying that you had already known him before as well. I learned him from obviously the Jordan Peterson lectures, but I'm sure he's like famous in this space. You had him on your speed dial. All right, without a concurrent neural net. Okay. The existential reality of our deepest moods and emotions cannot be adequately explained with mere words, even though the environmental reasons they are evoked can be so clarified. The most difficult part of the analysis, the clarification of the proximal causes which generate the actual feeling states and behavioral acts, can only arise from an integrative neuroscience approach. So all of these types of statements are statements that we resonate with in the document. Something absolutely necessary to mention early on when pointing out, these are my quotes now. When pointing out the objectivity of our conceptualization of the physical world, we use terms which are culturally situated and relevant to conceptualize the theoretically static physical world. We can relate this to the difficulty in creating a robust science of emotion and phenomena. This is why we need to consult neuroscience almost immediately within our inquiry. The main idea is that until we had the insights of our contemporary advanced neuroscience, we could only speculate what and why we experience certain things. What things and why. For example, we would need to survey someone or observe behavior in order to determine what was felt, which is culturally situated and therefore ambiguous. And then we conceptualize why using culturally situated words. In other words, we speculated the what of both the input and the behavioral output. Now we can speculate the interior mechanisms and process that transforms the input into the output. I don't know if speculate's the word, but conceptualize maybe is the better word. Anyway, I don't know him, but I trust this man because he is an actual scientist and not a pseudoscientific social neuro-evo psychologist. Yep, it is nice when they are actual scientists. And they have scary references sections that go on to, hundreds. All right, a central and no doubt controversial tenet of affective neuroscience is that emotional processes, including subjectively experienced feelings, do in fact play a key role in the causal chain of events that control the actions of both humans and animals. They provide various types of natural internal values upon which many complex behavioral choices in humans are based. So, the book that I'm reading more recently, The Strange Order of Things, which is much newer, 2017. Panksepp actually died so that this book could be published. Yikes. This book like goes even further in depth, not in depth, but like it makes a broader case that points out that emotions actually have a lot to do with not just like keeping our behaviors in line, but keeping like our he uses the word homeostasis, keeping our systems in a, let's just say, a positive state. So our emotions are not only affecting our learning, they're affecting our behavior such that we go do something about whatever is wrong or whatever is right. And so it's not only affecting what we actually become aware of, which is like our feelings, our behavior, and whatnot, but it's affecting a lot of the internal chemistry of our body in many ways that we just wouldn't expect until you actually look into it. So it is quite important. However, such internal feelings are not simply mental events; rather, they arise from neurobiological events. In other words, emotional states arise from material events at the neural level. So this is what we point out in the very beginning of our document, that we can pretty much point to the material processes when making sense of even things like our experience of meaning. That mediate and modulate the deep instinctual nature of many humans and animal action tendencies, especially those that, through simple learning mechanisms such as classical conditioning, become so readily to be directed at future challenges. Right. All right, one reason such instinctual states may include an internally experienced feeling tone is that higher organisms possess neurally based self-representation systems. I would suggest that subjectively experienced feelings arise ultimately from the interactions of various emotional systems with the fundamental brain substrates of the self. But as already mentioned, an in-depth discussion of that troublesome issue will be postponed until chapter 16, which unfortunately I actually haven't read yet. So I should probably finish this book and get through chapter 16, because this is the most interesting part. I read a half of it. I think I've read about a half, and yeah, I think that's where I've been at. I guess I think I read this like 4 months ago or something, 5 months ago. Maybe it was longer than that. Maybe it was 8 months ago. But I gotta continue. It's kind of crazy. That's like at least it's 100 pages. Well, yeah, it's like 150, I think, but that's not too bad. I've been reading The Strange Order of Things, and how many pages is this? This has got to be. Where am I in here? I am about. Yeah, I'm about to read where our feeling experiences located. So I guess I'm about 100 pages into this one. Feelings explained, and aside on remembrances of feelings past. What is going on? This book is crazy. I would highly recommend this book to anyone. This book has been so cool so far. Okay, but it's not too long. So I think I'm almost halfway in this book as well. This book is a little more, I think, dense, but this guy's got the benefit of knowing this entire book, and he's actually referenced this book so far. and then also knowing all the other things that we've come up with. There ought to have been more discoveries since 1981 or 1998. Yeah, so this guy has done a great job of pointing out the discoveries that we've made since then. The question I have right now is, what are the discoveries that have been made since 2017? Because that would be kind of important. Yeah, that guy. Same guy, I guess. Because this was like the problem with, what is it? The problems of Aristotle? What was the book called? Damasio books. No, it wasn't Aristotle. It was Descartes. Oh my gosh. I gotta get my my classical philosophy in order. Descartes' Error. That's what it was. Book by, and I think I might have started reading this, but then I felt like this stuff was obvious, maybe, but I don't remember what and why. 1994 book. Wow, pre affective neuroscience. What is this guy writing? Damasio, Antonio. Descartes' Error. You're gonna have to be more specific. Which one? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that book was actually about. I could look up that. Looking for Spinoza. So this is, I think, his most famous book by neuroscientists, that describing the physiology of rational thought and decision and how the faculties could have evolved through Darwinian natural selection. Damasio refers to René Descartes' separation of the mind from the body as an error because reasoning requires the guidance of emotions and feelings conveyed from the body. So honestly, this is very akin to the stance we take in our document. So perhaps this is also going to be really important to read. Written for the layperson, Damasio uses the dramatic 1848 railroad accident case of Phineas Gage as a reference for incorporating data from multiple modern clinical cases enumerating damaging cognitive effects when feelings and reasoning become anatomically decoupled. The book provides an analysis of diverse clinical data contrasting a wide range of emotional changes following frontal lobe damage, as well as lower and anterior areas of the brain, such as the anterior cingulate. Among his experimental evidence and testable hypotheses, Damasio presents the somatic marker hypothesis, a proposed mechanism by which emotions guide or bias behavior and decision-making, and positing that rationality requires emotional input. So that's the huge part, that rationality requires emotional input. Yeah, so that's actually a claim he's made, I think, in this book, pointing out that we often think about how we're most reasonable and rational when we're like separated from emotion. But really, our rationality is afforded by our emotion. So it's, we've got this idea that we're just not being emotional when we're being rational, but really we inherently are. That said, it's still a good concept to have this idea of a separation from being not emotional in our thought and being emotional, because emotions seem to affect your ability to reason in the moment. But when we say those emotions, we're talking about like heightened emotions that might get in the way of your focus on trying to be logical. Charles Darwin really did a number on societal harmony. So did Descartes. How many times does David Hume have to say it? Reason is a slave to the passions. Yep. But I guess for that one sentence, you could interpret that in such a way where the affective parts of our brain are just, they have priority over, your higher order thinking. So you could think about that as like when you're higher order thinking, you're doing stuff, but your emotions can get in the way of that. But this is like a more strict statement or assertion where even your higher order thinking, when you feel like there's no emotions involved, they're literally afforded by the affective parts of your brain. That's where Wittgenstein comes in and ends philosophy. Nice. Okay. So what has he come out with though in since then? Like what's do we get like a full literature? Okay, Damasio's books deal with the relationship between emotions and the brain's substrates. His 1994 book, Descartes' Error, Emotion, Reason, and the Human Brain, won the Science et Vie Prize, was a finalist for the Los Angeles Times Book Award, and was translated in over 30 languages. It is regarded as one of the most influential books of the past 2 decades. What's cool is it came out before this book that we're going through right now. His second book, The Feeling of What Happens, Body and Emotion in the Making of Consciousness, was named one of the 10 best books of 2001 by the New York Times Book Review. So this is a book to look at. The Feeling of What Happens. Can I search? Yeah. Okay. On the basis of a single case experiment, Damasio suggested emotions belong to the automatic vital processes of the body and thus can be recognized by a person without any form of memory. In The Feeling of What Happens, Damasio laid the foundations of the enchainment of precedences. The non-conscious neural signaling of an individual organism begets the proto-self, which permits core self and core consciousness, which allow for an autobiographical self, which permits extended consciousness. At the end of the chain, extended consciousness permits conscience. Wow. In 2003, this work was followed by the publication of Looking for Spinoza, Joy, Sorrow, and the Feeling Brain. In it, Damasio suggested that the philosopher Spinoza's thinking foreshadowed discoveries in biology and neuroscience views on the mind-body problem, and that Spinoza was a proto-biologist. Damasio's book is Self Comes to Mind. Why is this sentence a thing? Damasio's book is Self Comes to Mind, Constructing the Conscious Brain. In it, Damasio suggests that the self is the key to conscious minds and that feelings from the kind he designates as primordial to the well-known feelings of emotion are the basic elements in the construction of the proto-self and core self. The book received the Corinne International Book Prize. So books before the Feeling and Knowing. Is that what we just saw? No, this is a new one. Okay, we need to read this then. This is new. But after Self Comes to Mind, then he writes The Strange Order of Things, Life, Feeling, and the Making of Cultures, which I'm reading right now, and then I am going to be reading this. This is the sequel, I'm guessing. Feeling and Knowing, Feeling and Knowing. This is like literally, this is this is our document. Making Minds Conscious. So it's really important that I know this stuff, that I like learn this and study it. Giambattista Vico also criticized Descartes' dualism, if I remember correctly. Another historicist like Spengler. Stan, no one actually reads Wikipedia, so they never correct the typos, especially on articles like this with like 6 reads per year. Does this actually say how many reads per year it gets? Because that would be really cool if I could see that. But regardless, yeah, I guess no one's and no one updated it for these newer books except for here. So I'm just making an educated guess. Yeah, I've heard people say that no one reads Wikipedia anymore. They just read ChatGPT. But perhaps we could do both. Okay, what are we at? We're at an hour and 5. I cannot justify jumping to Hades yet, so let's let's keep going. Read the notes at the top. Photograph this. Are we talking about this? Oh no. This article has multiple issues. Perhaps help improve it or hide or discuss these issues on the talk page. This biography of a living person needs additional citations for verification. This biography of a living person relies too much on references to primary sources. Isn't that a good thing? This biographical article is written like a resume. Wow, that's funny. Is that a problem that it's written like a resume? And is that only for the life and work? Oh, it's like formulated. Okay. Also proposed that emotions are. Yeah, okay. Propose that emotions are part of homeostatic regulation. That's what regulation is actually the word I should be using. So the idea being that our emotions are fundamental for regulating many different processes in our body. He recovered William James' perspective on feelings as a readout of body states, but expanded it with an as-if body loop device which allows for the substrate of feelings to be simulated rather than actual, foreshadowing the simulation process later uncovered by mirror neurons. He demonstrated experimentally that the insular cortex is a critical platform for feelings, a finding that has been widely replicated, and he uncovered cortical and subcortical induction sites for human emotions, for example, in ventromedial prefrontal cortex and amygdala. He also demonstrated that while the insular cortex plays a major role in feelings, it is not necessary for feelings to occur, suggesting that brainstem structures play a basic role in the feeling process. Okay, we got to keep tabs on this guy. What is he working on right now? What is Antonio Damasio up to right now? The last edit seems to actually be on September 2nd. Oh, wow. Who seems to be a Swedish academic residing in Sweden with an enthusiastic fascination with Wikipedia, works part-time professionally as an editor, and loves to edit texts in English and Swedish, according to his profile. Perhaps I could send him the oh, that's a funny thought. Yeah. I do feel weird sending the document this early on. Like, I mean, I guess it makes sense that I could send part 1, but the document promises so much, and we only have the one part done that most people are like least excited or interested about, yet what philosophers would be most interested about. But yeah, if he's a philosophy academic, then maybe he would be pretty stoked at the direction we're taking. Who was this guy? Ricard Vogelberg? Uh-oh. Okay, we're going to have to find him through Oh, did I lose it? Okay, we got to go through. Where was this guy? How did you find this guy? Did you look at the histories or the history? Does this not say the person? Oh, sorry. My goodness. User. Okay. Works part-time professionally as an editor and loves to edit texts in English and Swedish. Well, we're not looking for an editor. We should make that clear. But I do like the idea of actually reaching out to this guy. Let's just. Where do we want to put this? Let's put this in. I think this will come up again. So, reach out to. And then can we... Okay, hopefully I know to do that later on. And there's a Patrick Dehenny. Is this how it's spelled? Drexel? Oh my gosh. There we go. I don't know what this guy even looks like. How am I supposed to find this? Oh. Okay. This is one of them. Let's put this in there. So we just have random people we're going to reach out to eventually. That's, yeah, I've been holding on to that one. I think we should reach out to Brandon at some point. I don't know. I don't know if he's going to even be interested. We're not really going in a direction that is the spirit of his theory of mine, but you know, perhaps he would appreciate it. I know him. Brandon would be sure. It's just well, it's just not. I don't think it's like doing too much more than what. Actually, that I shouldn't say that. It is doing a lot more than what he points out. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I would just. We used to hit it. I just feel like it would be so much cooler to have, all three parts done when I hit up these people, because then I could say, okay, I incorporated your stuff in like a comprehensive view of what we're actually trying to do, and it's, you know, it's not just like part one. The takeaway of part one is so basic. It's literally that you can reflect on what you understand, and you can reflect on your ability to do things now that will affect your understanding in the future, and not just your understanding, but you know, actually, yeah, in part one, it's literally that you can affect your just generally anything about your, I guess, body or your understanding or what you know. At least you could try, right? But yeah, it's a very simple. I guess then there's also the third pillar, which is like your understanding is going to change over time, so it does require that you not only reflect right now, but like you have to reflect upon the fact that you'll need to reflect again on where things have gone in the sense of how your understanding has changed, and whether or not you're actually still on the path to where you actually deliberately want to go. Should I print out your document and go tour the Ivy Leagues, giving them out to the bros? The academics. Is this the students or the teachers? Or I could send Hermano to do it. Who's Hermano? Yeah, I don't know. Also, the part one, I still think needs a ton of work. So, like, maybe there's going to be a certain point where I'm like, oh, you know what? I think this thing is ready. Like, we could publish this thing right now. But we'll see. We'll see when that's going to be. Because the one thing that I'm realizing reading the strange order of things is that we should actually include a lot more in our discussion of embodied cognition. Like, the discussion here isn't wrong, it's just not comprehensive enough. Like, the conclusion it makes is right, but, or not right, but it's pretty apt, or reasonable, I should say. It's rather that this discussion needs to be larger. We need to talk about all the other things that are going on in our bodies that's affecting our experience. So we have this communication within the brain, and we talk about neural communication, but that's only like one of many different types of processes that are affecting neural activity. So, you might think that, our experience of meaning is only afforded by the neurons that are close to the neocortex, but it's, there's a ton of stuff going on in our entire body that's affecting this whole system of whether we're feeling, at ease, like literally me seeing this and seeing it's a pen. Like, there's a lot of chemistry going on in our body. It sounds good on the script. How much more large can we get? How many pages? I think we could do it in a very succinct way. Like, I think we could add 2 paragraphs maybe and just fit it all in, Like, that's kind of been what that's kind of been the method we've used. We have taken so much content, we've squished it in, and we've tried to just be as succinct as we possibly can to explain what's necessary. And so this thing is so dense with really cool information, but we've got to make it comprehensive. We got to go through high school chemistry and then possibly mathematics. Yeah, it's the cool thing though is you don't have to know the chemistry. It's really not that important that you know any of the chemistry, but it's more that you understand that the chemistry is happening. So, what would be an example? We were talking about yesterday. I was asking ChatGPT on stream, where do hormones go? What happens to them when they're used up? And it was talking about all the different ways it could be excreted, but one of the ways was that it can get broken down by enzymes. And I don't need to know what that chemical reaction is, but now I just know that sometimes there's a chemical reaction and they're broken down. So that's the level of abstraction that we really need. If you can't explain it simply, the expert you are the expert. If you are an expert and can't explain it simply, then you're not the expert. If you are simple and the expert if you are an expert and then you can explain it simply. An expert said that. Nice. That was a rather simple quote to read, and I'm sure right. Okay, so what were we getting to? We have to figure out what Antonio Damasio is doing right now. Along with ongoing themes in his work, current roles and affiliations, he's a university professor. I think it's such a bummer that these guys are university professors. I know that sounds ridiculous, but there's so few people in these classrooms. He's got to be taking video. I feel like these professors should be videoing themselves and just putting it out there. Is money really for this guy? Is money really necessary right now? At some point, it's just morally beneficial to spread truths like this as far and wide as you possibly can. So, what a waste. Yeah, I mean, granted, these students are getting a great education, but like, there's more at stake right now. We need people learning about complex stuff, and for a professor to just be going and teaching like a few hundred students, like what's going on here? So in that regard, I don't really blame like Jordan Peterson for completely leaving the classroom and going full online educator. But obviously that gets into a different discussion. It's not the money, it's the status. These guys are like the Catholic priests who forbid people to take bribes or read Latin back in the day. And then someone like Martin Luther came along and they had to do something about it. Yep. That's going to be me. I'm going to be we're Martin Luther, if you didn't catch on. Not the like heinous bits, the Reformation bit. I don't know the heinous bits, so maybe I should chill on that one, but we'll see. All right, he directs the Brain and Creativity Institute at USC. That's pretty sweet, though. That's pretty cool. He's also an adjunct professor at Salk Institute in California. He is trustee of the Foundation Bankinter. In context of AI technology forums, and participates in public debates on AI, consciousness, and related topics. Interesting. He formerly was a counselor of the Portuguese State Council of State until... Oh my gosh. That's pretty sweet. Okay, Damasio's recent work keeps returning to a few interlinked themes. So I just talked a lot of smack, but maybe he is actually... Portuguese State. Maybe he is actually releasing a lot of content, and I'm just literally not looking and then screaming about it. So I should probably chill on that as well. He continues to explore how consciousness emerges not just from the brain, but from the interaction between brain, body, and life regulation, homeostasis. This includes interest in interoception, the sensing of internal bodily states as foundational to feelings and consciousness. In interviews, he emphasizes that homeostatic feelings, hunger, pain, temperature, etc., are inaugural elements of consciousness. Limits of AI and body cognition. Damasio has recently been active in public forums debating whether artificial intelligence in its current disembodied form can ever truly have consciousness. He argues that lacking a body, homeostatic regulation, and feelings, AI is missing something essential to human consciousness. Yeah, my take has always been that the only way that we're going to be able to make AI have feelings is if we literally simulate the brain and the body. Like we literally just simulate a human, and we recreate everything about it. Then you get the feelings. But perhaps we come to learn what actually led to consciousness, not understanding why consciousness feels the way it does, but we learn really more about the brain such that we know exactly which mechanisms have to be in place for consciousness to happen, and then we just simulate other versions of that. That's a possibility. He was a speaker at the Future Trends Forum where he critiqued the notion of consciousness in AI. Nice. Culture, life regulation, evolution of mind. Part of Damasio's recent intellectual trajectory is to link his neuroscientific insights to culture, how life regulation and biology underpin the development of cultural structures, and human behavior. So this is actually perhaps the only time that I'll say that we can take... Yeah, because it's not philosophy. So where Hegel kind of takes his philosophy and blows it up to the level of culture. I think that's a little inappropriate, but this would not be inappropriate, even though this is still highly speculative. This is a good way to get hypotheses, not conclusions. This guy's a doctor. He has an MD. Is that true? Or is it just the PhD? Where do we see the MD? Or are you searching separately? Because that's pretty cool. But I guess that makes sense. If you're a neuroscientist, you're probably pretty close to being a doctor, right? Is the only difference practic or clinical work? Look at the USC website. Okay. Yeah, like I would trust this guy even if I didn't know he was a doctor. I would trust this guy to like be able to answer questions about my body and brain health and stuff like that. The question is, would I? Yeah, I'm sure he would be fine if he was in the room of a surgery. I don't know if I would want him doing like the actual stuff if he has no experience doing that, but he continues to give public lectures, interviews, podcasts, and engage in science public discourse. Okay, so maybe I was a little premature on that one. For example, he was featured on a podcast called Lives Well Lived, discussing consciousness, feelings, ethics, and AI. He gave a talk at the Bankinter Foundation Forum. He and his wife Hannah were featured in a Q&A interview in the journal Neuron in 2023 about case studies, creativity. Oh my gosh, getting hiccups randomly. He's an MD, not a surgeon. Right, I said, I don't want him doing the actual. I don't want him touching the tools. Went right to the full trust. I mean, if he's not like squeamish, like then yeah, he'd probably be able to identify everything that was like inside my brain if they opened my head up. All right, what was I taken aback by here? Oh, I was taken aback by my hiccup, but I was reading through the Brain and Creativity Institute continues hosting events tying music, brain, narrative, and related topics. That's cool. All right, where is this? What is this thing? There he is. Donate. This is like a physical place? Is there no like public exchange? Okay. Giving. Oh. I'm just used to my philosophers also being philanthropists, so now it's weird when they're not. Damasio continues producing articles in neuroscience, philosophy of mind, and related disciplines. Really? Okay. Recent article titles: "Feelings are the source of consciousness." So he's harping on the same stuff. And "Homeostatic feelings in the biology of consciousness." Okay. Is this where we get to see his projects? Oh, this is all. We wanted to stay on this guy. Is there a 2025 in this page? 2024? No. But we got a couple 2023s. Okay. Questionable web design, though. Yeah, there's a chance that I have something going on here where I'm like overriding the CSS or maybe just the rendered color in order to make it night mode automatically. Like I think here, like I don't know if normal, I could be wrong about this, but I don't know if normal Google Docs has gray behind here. Like this might be something that I just have on my Chrome. I doubt it. Okay. Yeah, I think regardless though, it's it was a pretty old looking web design. Not like 2005 old looking, but it was like, it was about 2012 looking. All right. So we could cut this. We don't need this anymore. What are we at? We're at an hour 30. We could go for a tiny bit longer, maybe like 10 minutes. Trust me, I'm a patent lawyer. Yeah, you've actually mentioned that previously. And then yeah, you did also mention that you're not even a patent lawyer. I don't know what that has to do with the web design, but it sounds cool. Yeah. I feel like in terms of I feel like lawyers, get to talk about almost anything. I would actually say, like, when I was in college, I had this bit where I would just tell people that I was a psychology major when making any claim about people's intentions or feelings. When obviously I was a computer science major. That's true. All right, here we go. Let's keep inching forward. So we did that. Yep. It is here assumed that basic emotional states provide the efficient ways to mediate categorical types of learning, of learned behavioral changes. In other words, emotional feelings not only sustain certain unconditioned behavioral tendencies, but also help guide new behaviors by providing simple value coding mechanisms that provide self-referential salience, thereby allowing organisms to categorize world events efficiently so as to control future behaviors. So in the document, we kind of simplify that type of idea. What a menace. I might pull that trick off too. I think it only works when you're saying it in front of people that know that you're wrong. If we consult the graphs, you can see that due to our evolutionary psychology, we have a desire to walk like apes with our knees bent and elbows and arms flailing. Oh my gosh, what is this? Oh, okay. There we go. This is just like the that would be pretty embarrassing if your significant other did that in public. I was gonna say just like the Kiwi running like the guy with his hands in his sweatpants. Proof of evolutionary psychology. Yup. True. All right. At present, the simplest way to access the natural taxonomy of these systems is through 1, major categories of human affective experience across individuals and culture. 2, a concurrent study of the natural categories of animal emotive behaviors. And 3, a thorough analysis of the brain circuits from which such tendencies arise. At each of these levels, we are beginning to learn how to sort out the various distinct processes. Homologies at the neural level give us solid assurance of common evolutionary origins and design. Once we can specify distinct brain systems that generate emotional behaviors, we can also generate biologically defensible taxonomies of emotion, as opposed to simply intuitive and behaviorally based. Behaviorally based. So it's not actually using it in the way of like behaviorally based. It's behaviorally based. That's was based. When did based as like a meme type of term come about? Was that within the past 5 years, or was that like one of those ones that was like 20 years ago, but really only got popularized as the internet blew up? Obviously, if we are to remain data-based, our initial taxonomies must be quite conservative and for the time being open-ended. At the simplest level, world events can produce approach or withdrawal, but careful analysis of the evidence now suggests that both of these broad categories contain a variety of separable, albeit interactive processes that must be distinguished to reveal a proper taxonomy of affective processes within the brain. The main criteria for an emotional system will be whether a coherent emotional response pattern can be activated by localized electrical or chemical stimulation among specific brain circuits, and whether such arousal has affective consequences as measured by consistent approach or avoidance responses. Such constraints prevent the analysis from getting more complex than the existing neuroscience evidence. At the empirical level, we can presently defend the existence of various neural systems that lead to the limited set of discrete emotional tendencies described in this book. I will argue that a series of basic emotional processes arise from distinct neurobiological systems, and that everyday emotional concepts such as anger, fear, joy, and loneliness are not merely the arbitrary taxonomic inventions of non-critical thinkers. These brain systems appear to have several common characteristics. As discussed fully in Chapter 3, they reflect coherent integrative processes of the nervous system. The core function of emotional systems is to coordinate many states of behavioral and physiological processes in the brain and body. So this is like I should bold this. This is crazy. In addition, arousals of the brain systems are accompanied by subjectively experienced feeling states that may provide efficient ways to guide and sustain behavior patterns, as well as to mediate certain types of learning. Yeah, so you know what? That's actually a good question. Like, I guess the people that think that no, how should I say this? Intuitively, it makes sense that we would become conscious of things just for the sake of affecting our learning, like literally just so that we can now like have a heightened process of learning things that we notice subconsciously. Like that now adds a new layer, like a new corrective layer into our homeostatic was it regulation? Such that, you know, now we have another thing that kind of hones in on what is the problem, or when we need to actually do something about the moment. But I think I'm just kind of speculating, even though I think that's kind of in line with what these guys are saying. I gotta read more. In addition, arousals of these brain systems are accompanied by subjectively experienced feeling states that may provide efficient ways to guide and sustain behavior or patterns, as well as to mediate certain types of learning. Right, so that's what they do function as. The question is like, when did like what actually facilitated the evolutionary development that led to these coming about? Further, it seems reasonable to assume that when such neural activities continue at low levels for extended periods of time, they generate moods and ultimately such personality dimensions as the differential tendency to be happy, irritable, fearful, and melancholy. So this is actually what we incorporate in the document. We kind of point out that moods are at play as well. Obviously, a complete study of emotional systems is also essential for understanding the many psychiatric disturbances that assail humans: the schizophrenias, autisms, manias, depressions, anxieties, panics, obsessive-compulsive disorders, post-traumatic stress disorders, neuroses, and other vexations of the human spirit. Pervasive differences in behavioral details among species will be de-emphasized. Rather, I will focus on communalities at the neural level that arise from the impressive degree of genetic relatedness between ourselves and other animals, other mammals. Presumably, so yeah, the other thing is that we seem to share a lot of these systems with more than just mammals that we've kind of come to learn since 1998. Presumably, the major evolutionary differences within the subcortical operating systems are matters more of emphasis than of kind. For example, rabbits may have more fear circuitry, while cats have more anger circuitry. Wow. Other differences may also be striking. The precise bodily appearance of emotional patterns, the variety and the details of sensory and motor apparatuses, as well as specific psychobehavioral strategies. But at deeper levels, very similar emotional systems may guide many of the spontaneous behavioral tendencies of all mammals. Although other animals will not have thoughts comparable to ours, there are good reasons to believe that our deep feeling of dread emerges to a substantial extent from the same brain systems that create fearful states for other animals. Still, an understanding of such simple emotional behaviors cannot be separated from the environmental and social context in which they occur. When we say that we need a conceptualization, this is me. When we say that we need a conceptualization of the world in order to conceptualize our goals, it's really that we need to have an implicit understanding of the world in order to operate effectively towards our more effective goals. I certainly need to make this more precise, and which I think I did. So I wrote this while we were actually like first building out the science section of the document. So I get to now sit on the other side of our progress. This is clearly a lie. How do they explain Brian from Family Guy? Someone's got to have been inspired by something like a talking dog. True, a dog with thoughts. Yeah, like I'm trying to figure out like what is actually allowing us to feel like to really feel like pain or feel certain emotions, like, you know, how much of that is actually afforded by the newer parts of the brain. Like if it's like if a tree fell in the woods, is there, you know, did it make a sound? It's like, if the same systems are, you know, releasing all these chemicals that usually amount to anxiety, but the animal doesn't have the, you know, the neocortex to understand what that is, then what is that feeling like? How much of that is similar? I think that's $1 million question, right? Yep, that is the $1 million question. And I think that's probably something that this guy's books, the current book I'm reading and the next book will give more information on. But I mean, this guy, I think, went as far as to say that like bugs even have like the precursors of our emotional systems, which is kind of wild. But I wouldn't imagine that bugs have feelings similar to ours, but I don't know. I could be convinced. I always just assume, or I always just thought of bugs as like mini robots because they're just kind of, they have these complex reactive systems. No one is going to find out, and then some hermit nobody is going to come along and upend the entire field. Yeah. That would be cool. Or we got to start getting some AI scientists to come in here and, you know, communicate stuff. Yeah, things are going to get weird once we have like AI communicators communicating empirical science. Then it's like, how do we trust them? But they're also going to be so good at what they're doing. Like, oh man, AI communicators are going to be so good at convincing people, but it's not going to necessarily mean that they're right. And that's a scary time. Calm down, buddy. First, we got to get the Robo GFs. There's more money in the Robo GFs, so yeah, that's probably coming first. That is probably coming first. All right, should we just end here? Get into the Hades world. So I'm gonna do one of these. These are classic. And yeah, let's start up next maybe over the weekend. Maybe we should do that so that we don't have to push back what I had for Tuesday. What did I have for Tuesday? Oh, Tuesday, I think I had embodied cognition, where we'll actually go over the Damasio notes. Aha! So I have to I have to hurry up on that as well. Actually, maybe that was next Thursday. What is going on here? Oh, I didn't choose anything yet. So maybe this would be next Thursday. Embodied cognition for Thursday, but we need a topic for Tuesday. So I guess we could continue reading the affective neuroscience. But imagine what someone like Elon Musk will create. Yeah, I'm pretty scared about the fact that that Grok is actually high in the leaderboards. That's terrifying me. Check this out. All right. Okay, what is happening here? Oh, here we go. Is that what these are called? Parochas? Parrots? Wait a second, we gotta get this in. Yeah. Oh, is this a mating dance? Are those like whiskers? What's going on here? Are those on the... Oh, yeah. So is the general sense that these types of mating dances are literally just showcasing like physical abilities, like athleticism, basically? Like, is this just like you show how athletic you are by how well you can stick to this dance? The animal talk reminded me of this. Yeah. Yeah, it is pretty wild. Though I would like, now that I see that, I would like to know, like, was that actually even a good dance? Like can we get like I want to get into the game of having a full overview of a species mating dance, and then figuring out what actually makes it better or worse, and then watching them compete. That would be kind of cool. It's the same thing with nests, no? Yeah, I mean, just all the, like, I guess the vocal ones are kind of pointing out some type of fitness of their ability to communicate. Maybe that's literally their... Yeah, I guess I don't know what's singing though. Singing for humans is kind of a mating call, and I don't know why. Like, that's literally just aesthetic, right? What is that even? I don't know. All right, I'm gonna cut this stream, and then we can go into the Hades stream. If that's the case, then they're probably the best birds to do that with, since their dance is so iconic. Okay, I didn't realize they had an iconic dance. I just assumed all birds kind of did something like that. But yeah, what is the penguin mating dance like? That's what we got to figure out. They really don't have many like degrees of freedom though. So they can't really. They can only flap, it seems. Maybe waddle in place. All right, BRB.